This conference will now be recorded.
There it is. Hi, Frank.
Hello.
Hey, Frank.
How are you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Yes.
It's Angela Stahl.
I'm sorry?
Angela Stahl.
Yes.
I can verify the identity of the person there.
Riley. Hi, Riley.
Hello.
Riley.
Hello. Hey-o.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it would have been.
But you could have walked.
I know. Exactly. I was like, by the time I found my spare.
Everybody got you.
Okay. This is community development meeting on September 28th, 2023. The time is 5:34. Call the meeting to order. We have Matthew Stahl, Angela Stahl here to speak. Kelly Simons, Frank Eubank, Mary Gaziano, Jason Ackerman, Riley Pitney are all in attendance. We get roll call
Ackerman.
here.
McKinney. Pitney.
Yes.
Any conflict of interest? Hearing none, we'll go on to public comment, which I guess is meant either way. Matthew, why don't you go ahead?
So this is a copy of a letter that was emailed.
Thank you.
And so I'm doing my Eagle Scout project along the prairie path. And so I'm trying to raise money to put garbage cans along the prairie path so we can clean that area up.
Okay.
So, that's kind of my why, is I'm trying to make a cleaner city or village. Can you go to slide 3? So this is the, garbage can that I'm looking at purchasing. It's got a pet dispenser for owners who have dogs, they can clean up after them, and then just a normal trash can underneath for the dog bags and just other trash along the path. And then I chose this can because it's made of recycled like plastic, so it's not super heavy like the ones we have downtown to lift and move, and then it's not like a true wood or metal where it'll rot and rust with the weather. I'm looking at putting them one at Swift, Elida, and Westfield, my 3, and then I didn't put one at Benton just because of the garbage cans right here close to the path at Memorial Park. And then just the red dots are just the intersections. I have not fully decided which side of the road. It's gonna a lot depend on what the village thinks, which side is best.
Public Works.
Public Works.
Mhm.
So then each can, yes, is gonna roughly cost $675 a piece. So then the total cost is estimated with delivery is $2,800. And then I am working, I've wrote an email to Terryville asking who to contact and to call, seeing about if we can pick them up to save on shipping costs, and if we can get a discount for it being a non-for-profit like Eagle Scout project, so that may lower the cost a little bit. And then I have already had anonymous donator donate some of the money. I think it's $200 right now in going towards the project.
Great.
Questions?
So the can you had chose is garbage and the pet? I mean, that's all
That's
the
the
same thing.
picture. It has pet bags on top,
The bag.
and then you can dispenses in, and then it has a garbage can on the bottom.
And then our public works would take care of these once they're installed?
I have to go to one of their meetings yet.
Oh, okay.
But they haven't sent me a date to go to see if they would do that. But Chad Insco is a scout leader, and
Mhm.
he's already kind of said that we should be able to do that for me.
And not necessarily a question, but just a comment. Number one, I think this is a great idea. We have a lot of
Yes.
people walking dogs in the area, and so I think we need this for that, and then just for the ability to throw garbage in a garbage receptacle rather than just on the ground or someone having to carry it all the way to where they're going to. But the other thing is, I don't know that the village in itself can donate money to you or the Boy Scout troop. We can't do that. But as you mentioned, we can donate time to install these because it is going to be for the benefit of the village. And we could possibly choose to fund the purchase of one. It wouldn't be necessarily giving you the money to purchase it. I think we can authorize the purchase of one of those rather than giving you the money. Because if we give it to you and your troop, then we have to give it to every other organization in that area. So I don't think we can do that. But I just want to make that statement.
And does the maintenance then include later, the replenishment of the bags as well?
When you order it, they come with a certain amount of bags. I think it's like 400 in each for each one you order. So that would last quite some time already.
But then after
And then
that,
you can order,
the village though, whoever's,
the Village Works would have to
okay,
order them. And then my plan is for any of the extra money I raise would go to extra bags.
Have you looked into, I didn't know that, I'm glad you mentioned that, but I get it.
Right.
It makes sense, we have to do whatever. Have you looked into, I mean, well, I'm sure we could, some kind of donation button, on social media we could probably run it on ours, we can do that, can't we?
not for individual ones.
Yeah, because we're spending
Oh.
dollars on that.
Oh,
So again, if it's for the village, it's okay, but if it's for a specific thing, we can't.
sure.
But they could do it on the community page.
Yeah,
Yes.
Stephanie could, right?
Stephanie, right.
With a link to his project, right?
Right, so Stephanie on her own time would utilize the Winnebago page, since she's the administrator of that page, and she could then do that for you.
The reason I ask is my businesses would be willing to donate. If you could, and I would think you could get people to donate towards that way.
Yeah.
If you would work with Stephanie King.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know what we can do. Like you say, if we want
Right,
to purchase one.
right, and, we would want to look at, we're going to be talking about parks and what to do with that, but I think this is a good idea, and at some point, if we ever have a dog park, which I think we might want to have, that would be a good thing to have, and so, it's just a matter of where you are with your donations and what your timeline is, and if you only have two, but the village feels that we really should have three, the village could purchase one. Because it's ultimately for the village residents and the use of the village residents, so, keep us apprised of your goal and your level of donations, and then.
Put it on Stephanie's
Yeah.
group. I think you'll get donations, I would think.
Yeah, and if there's a way, to update it as you're getting it in.
That's
so
right.
People can see, oh, there's more donations, how much more is needed. If you get your full donations and the village doesn't have to pay anything, great. But we would likely through Public Works, consider then installing them because that is for a village purpose.
And I think the other thing too is that, again, this isn't through that kind of page, and maybe I'm just old fashioned, but if you go to some of these businesses, person to person, I used to do a lot of fundraising.
Sure.
And there's just something to that personal touch, to show them this is my project and just bringing it, print off what you have and then show them. And also you can show them, what the donations have been so far and what you've done. So they know that you're organized and I think
Are you
Could be
involved at
helpful.
all with Winnovation Robotics?
Yeah.
They've got a business plan where they go out to the different businesses. When Austin, my daughter was involved with that, they would go out to businesses and get donations. And it's similar to what she's saying, if you go out there with your business plan, scale down, of course, but if you go out there and you present them with what you're trying to do, just like you are here, you usually will get a good response. So you can take that as your model. I'm sure Karen, if you're not in that part of it, I'm sure Karen, can help you out with that.
my only piece of advice for that is make it very short,
Yeah.
make it very direct,
Mhm.
because they're going to say they don't have a lot of time.
Mhm.
And so, you just say, thanks for having me, but not, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you being in, a business in the community, because now you've used up too many seconds of your time. It's just how it is.
And it doesn't seem like it, but a majority of this town uses the bike path a lot, and this would be a valuable asset to it, so I'd use it. I use the bike path all the time.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Mike. Mike's.
My apologies for being late. I didn't know if I'd be able to join in at all, but on top of that, I think we got the wrong meeting number on the agenda. Because when I tried to log in, it was showing the board meeting and not the community development meeting.
I'll have to check.
Yeah. Fortunately, the minutes from the last meeting had the right meeting number on it, so I was able to get in it through that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sitting in a more comfortable chair. If it doesn't sink.
Okay, next on we didn't approve the minutes. I wanted to take care of public comment first, Mike. Matthew Stahl came in for his Eagle Scout project. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes, or did anybody have problems with the minutes?
I will motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, that's, can I get a roll call? Roll call, I guess. Or can Mike vote? He can't vote.
He can vote if he's away on business or.
So
Which
roll
it is-
call that.
It is business.
Okay, you just have to authorize him to be allowed to do that per our ordinance. So Riley would have to make a motion to allow Mike to attend and be part of the meeting because he's away on business, and you'd have to second that. And then you'd have to vote to allow him to come in. And then after that vote, then he can do everything as though he's physically present.
Because it has to be meeting by meeting.
Yep.
That it's done.
Is that what we want to do? Yes.
Well, if you don't, then nobody makes a motion. But if you do want him to be able to vote, then you make a motion.
Well, I motion to allow Mike to attend the meeting and vote and in attendance,
Since he's away on business.
since he's away on business.
I'll second that.
That you need a motion, then you need to have a vote, and
Can we,
that can be by roll call, or that can be by voice vote. Either one.
roll call?
Ackerman,
Yes.
Pitney.
Yes.
And
Okay.
just a point of order, you're never wrong to have a roll call. You can always have a roll call. The voice vote is only when you're not voting on like money things. But you can always have a roll call, so you're never wrong if you want to do the meeting, roll call the whole meeting, just to let you know.
Okay, I like those better. And then we need to go back to the approval of the minutes. I guess
Yeah,
motion.
I guess technically I made my motion before I was allowed to
Yeah.
participate, so should we just reorder them, or do you want to?
Since you're participating now, let's do that again.
So I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 31st meeting.
I second that.
Okay, can I get a roll call?
And we stop, it's July, he said July 31st, but it's July 27th.
July 27th.
I'm staying corrected on July 27th.
Roll call.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Pitney,
Yes.
Okay, let's move to Memorial Park. So well, you might not know, Riley, but we had per suggestion of Mike, we had another subcommittee, you might say, of just people from the village that wanted to discuss what to do with Memorial Park. This has been a ongoing talk of upgrade because a few years ago, I can't remember exactly, 20 or 21, they had a study done from IML, and there was a couple pieces out there that were found to be not safe. The main structure, main piece in the middle, and then the fire truck one over there, the bars. So I had two quotes. We've had the Burke quote for a while. Kelly had worked on that. I should have sent that to both of you.
Yeah, I think I have.
It came in the packet.
Yes.
it did, and I also have the presentation too.
Here, let me get to my packet. I didn't get to that either. So everybody on that subcommittee was all for redoing the whole park. I spent most of this past weekend going over, because I just got the second quote, and that's from Game Time, Cunningham Recreation is the other quote. They came in higher. They had different pieces, a little more of the PIP, poured in place rubber for the ADA, wheelchair accessible areas. So anyway, they came in about 40,000 higher. Now the reason it was 40,000 higher was because Burke is 10,000 less than they were in their previous quote from months back. So we're in at, for the Burke quote, we're in at 146 and some change.
213.
What's that?
146, 213.
There you go.
I thought you were looking for that.
I was. 146, 213. I thought of different ways, because we've talked of a water feature, we've talked of different things, and of how could we just fix what's out there. The thing is, the main piece is the one has issues, and it looks run down, and you'll never match it, and you'll just look like you piecemealed this together. So I'm at the opinion, I'm advising that we go for the whole thing. It's mulch in all of it'd be the same layout, mulched with poured in place under two of the pieces there for the wheelchair access. And we would have two, I think we're working it right now. It just shows one access way from to the pit. We're trying to make another one. We're having them redraw that. This exact number, I want to have anyway, I want to ask for, we had 160 in the budget
165,
for this,
I think.
165. I want a cushion anyway, because we want to remove some trees, and Public Works said that that would come out of our budget, which is fine because it's parks. So I want to have a cushion anyway for things like that. We don't know what we'll run into. I want to do that. I'd like to see the basketball hoops, make this all one thing. Redo the basketball hoops in the pavement there. The kiosk would be painted and moved, and we thought we'd put in a map in there of our other parks that I didn't even know we had until we joined this. So that might be something. The Prairie Path itself, so that we can show that's a focal point of the town. It's what we have. So I don't know, anything else could go in that, but that was a project that was done, and I think if we pretty it up, it would be good. So the Burt quote has 7 pieces. One of them, I think it's 7. Wait a minute. Yes. One of them is a 6 month to 24 month, which we didn't even have before. Then there's two pieces that are inclusive, which would be where the poured in place would be underneath. And we are not inclusive. Very inclusive right now. I mean, mulch counts, but we're only making the state minimum, if that. There's not really any access to get in there with that border. Kelly called the border, there wouldn't be a border, the mulch would just come down and be edged.
Flush. It'd be a natural edge.
Yes. That's where I'm at with it.
Also, Jason, getting back to the age 6 months, at the subcommittee for parks, what we kind of discussed was each park having kind of its target age. And this particular park was for the younger kids because there's the sports park up,
That's right.
the park district owned stuff. And we kind of came to a consensus at that meeting that this really is for the littler kids, and it made sense to go even smaller with that one piece. So I think it's great, but I just wanted to remind you that we
Yes.
kind of discussed that.
Yes, we did. We also discussed, and there's only one piece, that the 2 to 5 year old, I think it's the piece on the corner over there. That's one of the newest pieces for something to do with it. The rest I think we'll just scrap. But that one, maybe we could move over to Herd Park for the softball players and such. For, I don't know, maybe they have kids that want to play on something. So it's not being wasted. It didn't fail the safety check. So something we could do with that. So I'm kind of looking to get
Can I talk about the money?
yeah, please.
I just wanted to point out that we have 165,000 in the budget. And right now, the Community Development Fund has cash that is, it covers 97% of the budget. So we're in good shape. Even if we spend that, we'll still be in the 50% range. And there is some wiggle room there, which don't tell the salespeople that, but ultimately, I think we're in great shape to do it.
I do too. I think it needs done. It's a focal point of the downtown. And it's more inclusive if we do this, which is what's been important to me.
I think another good thing is we have the preschool right here, which has the youngest kids, and so they can go right across the street.
And they've been asking for it, yes. They've mentioned it. I've talked to them, one of their board members. So I would need a motion to get, I don't know, what is that add up to then? 165 and 35, you said?
What are you, I guess I misunderstood that. What are you asking?
What, you said we had extra, I mean, do we have to
Well, what you should probably do is put whatever the bid is, do a motion for that with a contingency maybe?
That's what
I mean, is that what you think, Frank?
Yeah, and then if it comes to cutting down trees, I don't know that that needs to be part of this bid. That can just be a separate,
okay, then
And
come
a
under
separate thing
that.
that comes out of.
That we can use that other line
Okay,
item for.
that's all I want to make sure is that.
So I would say that, the board allows you up to 160 or 165 for the purchase of
Right.
this and for any related expenses for
Well,
that.
I was gonna say, this quote was for 30 days, and of course, we didn't have the meet, so it wasn't on the agenda for last one. So we have to, there might be some October pricing issues, I'm not sure, but he's gonna get back to us on that.
Yeah, because he's gonna give us the cost to extend that.
Yeah.
Put in place to the sidewalk.
We'll make sure the 165, it is the number.
So it could be an up to 165, because that's what's been budgeted.
So then you want a
Can
motion.
I make a motion to do that?
Somebody on the committee can make a motion for, I guess, drafting of a resolution to bring to the board to spend up to 165 for the purchase of product or whatever, however you want to word it.
Because this is just a recommendation of the village board like everything else, right?
Right,
In that sense, that they're recommending to the village board to spend up to $165,000 to Burke, whatever the rest of it's called, for new
Right.
playground equipment
right, so then
Memorial Park.
they would have a resolution drafted for the board meeting and then.
Right. I mean, that's but the motion, as I see it, I guess, would be to recommend to the village board to expend up to that amount of money, and that it's just our internal thing that we have resolutions to do that, right?
So yes. Can I make that motion as a head?
You are a member, I think you can. I don't
Or
think
are
there's
you
anything
gonna
against
make
that.
that motion?
Yeah, I know you can, and I know Bill does on his own motions and zoning. I just personally, I think it looks better if a member does it, but
But if
I
nobody.
mean, do you want to talk about it more? I don't.
No, usually you make the motion first and then you talk about it. That's where the
Right,
discussion
that's what I
comes in.
thought.
So, yeah, somebody can make the motion, whether it's you or somebody else, and then once you make the motion and it's seconded, then it's on the table for talking.
I will make that motion so that we can get into the discussion phase.
And I will second it. So discussion.
I guess I'll just make some comments. It still blows my mind at the expense of what this equipment is. However, you guys, I guess you've done what I asked to do. I said I didn't believe I was personally in a position to make the decision. And I suggested a subcommittee, which you did form, and you got some people involved in it, and they appear to support it. It appears the due diligence has been done, and the fact that you went out and got a subsequent quote and it was even higher. So even though I still have trouble stomaching the value or the dollar amount outlay, I guess you've checked the boxes I've asked to be checked.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
And is the board going to be provided with a copy of the second bid as well, just to
Can
be
be.
able to show that
You
this
don't
is,
have,
you don't
you
have
don't
to, I
have
know.
to. I mean, typically how a resolution might look is you would attach this one, but in the resolution, you would say it went out for 2 bids, and the higher bid was for 180 or whatever the amount was. And the bid that you are putting forward is this one, and then you attach that bid. So you don't have to attach the other one if you don't want to, but you would mention it in your resolution. I mean, that's how it typically, I think, would appear.
So if there's no more discussion, can I get a roll call?
Well, one more comment. I guess just the only potential benefit of having the second one there is so, the board would be aware that at least the dollar differential was still an apples to apples comparison, and not the fact that the bid was a lot higher because there was a lot of additional equipment or value there. I mean, or at least if that can be instructed or included in the language in the resolution that, the two quotes had relatively the same equipment and there was a significant dollar difference. But, so I wouldn't personally need to see the other one as long as somebody's looked at it and, it is a relatively piece for piece comparable and there was, that doesn't explain the significant dollar difference.
It actually had, one less piece, the 6 month to
Okay.
24
Well,
months wasn't.
Yeah, as long as there's a statement in there, again, I personally don't need to see the other quote, but if you've looked at it and you feel comfortable that, they're relatively on par or an inferior amount of equipment at the high dollar amount, that, I certainly have no objection to the company we're dealing with. We've been dealing with them all along, and I guess it's encouraging to know that, after a little bit of delay that, and we know that product is becoming a little bit more available. And we're in an inflationary period, and yet, we still see a little bit lower price now than we did in previous things. So, which does make sense with where some of the stuff in the market is going.
Well, it's end of the year too, so I think that's why the bid came in cheaper from Berg. But either way, yeah, it could be things changing. If that's all the discussion, can I get a roll call?
Pitney,
Yes.
Beckerman,
Yes.
McKean.
Yes.
I'm excited about the kiosk with the parks on there, maps on there too.
Yes.
I wanted to do
My
something.
grandson would love to go on that adventure.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we could use maps too, to be put along the Prairie Trail, and, if we had a place to put maps and here, places in Winnebago, maybe have businesses donate one of those maps.
Another cost that could be is the live trees that are there. So this one that was donated, the one with the fence around it, Mike, that I think it's got, those short needled ones are getting a disease. I think it's fixable by an arborist, so I may work on that too. So that isn't brown in 2 years or something. And there's a couple of the bigger ones we're gonna keep the same way. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for the additional work on this with taking down the trees and stuff. I think it's very odd to me to see kids playing in the middle of the day and they're like, it's like midnight.
Well, yeah.
They're just like playing in the dark. It's like,
The only thing I can say is when we had the 4th of July Family Festival downtown, that was the only place that there was shade.
Yeah.
And you don't want a lot of crispy critters playing on the equipment.
yeah.
It's nice to have the shade. So there's
We're gonna
the
leave
good and the
some.
bad. So, that's why, we talked about a pavilion, maybe over here, instead of a basketball court, just so you've got a place for shade. If you're gonna cut down a lot of the trees, you wanna make sure you've got a shelter or an area where you can take shade.
In lieu of that,
Right.
we're gonna leave some of the trees, but even, we talked today about, some kind of structure over the 2 picnic tables.
Sure.
Because I go by here every day, and the picnic tables is where I see the adults sitting. So, that's another option. It might be low cost. A pavilion is.
Well, yeah, just a little gazebo kind of thing, whatever that, just has a roof on it.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Right. Back to the agenda.
And then just so we're clear, the resolution is being done in-house. I just want to know who's doing it.
I don't know that either. I was gonna ask after the meeting. Who does community development?
I don't know if, we can, I don't know, Mary, if you have the ability to do that.
I can, I just don't want us doubling up. That's all I'm really asking.
It might
I know.
be helpful, because I'm looking at Kelly over there, and I'm thinking, she's probably thinking, it'd be nice if Mary could do that.
Okay.
Is it gonna be for the next meeting?
Yes.
For the October meeting, right?
That'd be great.
Thank you, Kelly and Jason, for all of your hard work on that. I've been talking about that park for almost 10 years.
She has.
Yeah.
It's true.
Wow.
And something's happening. I really appreciate all of it.
All right, now we're gonna get into less fun stuff. Next on the agenda is the zoning commission, zoning board of appeals separation. So Frank, do you want to go on that? Listen to you first.
Really, you had brought up,
I'd like to see it because from what I'm reading about the zoning commission, zoning board of appeals is what I'm calling the nuts and bolts. They're supposed to make sure that whatever development's going on, it fits the ordinance. The commission, to me, from what I read, is more about designing, working with the ordinance, making, those kind of things. And I agree with that in the sense that we're elected and the zoning board of appeals are appointed people. So I feel like the elected officials should be in charge of the ordinances.
now Mary.
That's where I'm at.
Mary had done some research and found an ordinance prior to the adoption of our original zoning ordinance of 1957. And there, I think it established a commission to look into creating a zoning ordinance. And then that commission was still going to be intact after the adoption of that zoning ordinance. That zoning ordinance was adopted by the village board back in 1957, I believe.
Was,
And then it has its own rules for the zoning board of appeals in that ordinance. So I think what we have to do is we have to look at that original ordinance. And I couldn't find it. I don't know, Mary, if you brought it to a zoning board meeting or brought it to a meeting and handed it out, but I didn't see an email that you had it on.
okay,
But if you could email that to everybody, that would be helpful.
okay.
But what that will let us know is what's the original structure of that planning and zoning commission? Who was to be on that commission? And I think, Mary, wasn't it the zoning board and
The village
and the
president.
village president? That was the commission. So like if, we just had a developer come in yesterday and talk to me, and he said, I'd like to talk to your planning and zoning commission and see where we can go with this. I want to meet with them, get their ideas, get their feedback before we move further into this. So that typically would be our zoning board of appeals and the village president. I don't know that we have to do that. You can have your own commission made up of whomever you want, but in order to do that, we would need to change our ordinance. So if we're gonna change it to community development, I don't mind that. We just need to do it the proper way. And as Jason found out, when you do certain things, you might have to have a public hearing. So we may have to have a public hearing in order to change our zoning and planning commission from what it currently is to something new. But I don't have a problem discussing what's the best way to do it. And if we believe that community development is the way to go, and, that's fine if we decide that we want to have our village board really be the planning and zoning with maybe the attendance of the chairman of the zoning board and do it backwards that way. So we have got somebody from zoning that can be there that understands what's going on and may be able to give some input from the zoning side. And then we've got the regular board. And that would be more like a cow meeting for the planning, zoning and planning. So we have options. It's just whatever way the board wants it to be.
Or the community development committee and a member of the zoning board.
Correct.
Or
It could be
just a
that.
number.
It could be that smaller group of,
And that was, we'd have had to change it anyway, because I know it said, it was comprised of 5 members or something like that. There was a number of members.
originally it was, this has 7. Currently,
7?
zoning board appeals has 7.
Oh, yeah, we
And now
changed
we've
the
changed
appeals
it
to
down to
5.
5.
That's right. But the commission was part of that. I remember reading that as well.
So I think that's the first main thing. But then, just looking at our 57 ordinance, there are powers and duties that are given, but when you go to change things, you have to have a public hearing. And it's the planning and zoning commission that really gets the referral. So when we did the UDO, technically, we were supposed to have UDO go to the planning and zoning commission and give a report. And then come back with their report after they've had their own public hearing to get input from anybody that had wanted input. Then that planning and zoning commission, after the public hearing, would come back to the board and say, this is our report. We find that, yes, we should adopt the UDO, or or no, we shouldn't. And then the board at that point would then decide, okay, are we gonna do this or not?
But not to confuse
Yeah.
things, but the UDO in and of itself isn't just zoning. That's the reason that it was not, there wasn't a public hearing at that time, is that it was being adopted as a separate ordinance. Now, the question is, and I can't, as I'm sitting here, I honestly don't remember, so I can't definitively answer. But you have to have, when there is a change in the text of the zoning ordinance, that's when you would have to have a public hearing. As I'm doing this from memory, and I could be wrong, but I think that the zoning was picked up from the 57 zoning ordinance and plopped in the UDO. That's not a change in the zoning ordinance. Now, and
It's not a supplement?
well, if you change certain things, if like say that you picked up the 1957 zoning ordinance, plopped it in, and then you added anything different having to do with zoning, then yeah, you should have a public hearing. But if you simply plopped it in, then you are not changing the zoning ordinance. Because you're just taking the zoning ordinance and putting it in the Unified Development Ordinance, which has a lot of things in it that have nothing to do with zoning.
How is it not supplementing that original ordinance?
Because the zoning aspects of that ordinance, if they're just picked up and moved in there, you're not changing the zoning. And for the other things that are in the Unified Development Ordinance, those aren't zoning.
So this is how I see it. The UDO, when it was adopted, didn't necessarily change the zoning ordinance of 1957. We adopted it separately, and we consciously did that. We wanted a separate thing to do something for property that was going to be, that was vacant, that was going to be basically built up.
New development.
So there's two things to look at. One is if we aren't changing the 57 zoning thing and we just adopted the UDO, maybe we didn't need a public hearing. But if we're taking the 1957 zoning ordinance and we're adopting something that is restricting how the 57 ordinance is to be
And it
utilized.
does.
And basically, we would have used the 57 ordinance over vacant property, but now we've introduced the UDO, which is taking away some of it. It may or may not be changing the zoning ordinance, but it may be affecting certain property that would have been covered under one, but now it's being covered under another. And I think that may also require a public hearing. That's something we can look at. But then what we also did is we didn't take verbatim the 57 ordinance and put it into the UDO. I think there are some changes, there's some differences. And by adopting UDO, we now have possibly different rules for special use permits or variances, because we do have language of variances and other things in our UDO that's different than our 57 zoning. So at that point, we are changing, because if I'm a property owner and I have vacant land and you now adopt the UDO, you're now changing what I have to do to get a variance or a special use permit. Whereas if I went under the 57 ordinance, I had that way to do it. So now you are making a change on that. And that's.
Yeah, I mean, if there are changes. Yes.
So then that would have required a public hearing. And again, we have to look back and see if that does, but that's where I'm at with that. And so then the other thing that we did beyond that is we decided we wanted to have one document to make it easier. And we decided to basically do away with the 57 ordinance and have UDO just do everything, because we thought that would be much cleaner, much easier. And we find out it really might not be. And now we've got a UDO that we really needed to have a public hearing to do away with the other 57. So that's the second part of that.
I didn't even have this on the agenda because it's so,
Oh, I didn't
now
know.
that we're in it.
I didn't know that I thought that's what you were referencing to.
Well, yes, the commission would have more, I'm going back to the board meeting. When asked about, changes or going through article by article. All right, we don't want to do that. We want to come up and do it as, we want to change it as things come up. That's fine. But I want to know if there's a way, and Mary, to have the 57 ordinance stay the same as it always has like we make an old business district. And this is not, I once said, this is not for my property. I will do whatever the UDO says, but what I am telling you is that those landscaping provisions in the UDO are so strict that it will kill projects on half-acre or less lots like we have in all of the old zoning district. My project could not have, it could have happened, but you have to go through the variance process. Why put people through that process? It's not fun. It's a court hearing. And I don't see why we want to do that to people that might not be corporations that build down here. The UDO is fine at the north end of town. So the simplest way here is to simply do that. Make 2 districts with 2 zonings.
Can we have our UDOs be, if you're north of McNair Road, you have the UDO that you have to follow if you're south? In the old part, we would use the 57. Is that allowable?
No.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking.
What'd she say?
No, it's not.
No.
So the other thing is, when you look at the 57, I happened to read through it today. It uses percentages of the property rather than an amount.
Right.
And that's where I think you're coming in saying, look, we've got some smaller areas here. The percentage would mean you'd have a lot less because you have a lot less square footage. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So maybe we do need to figure out how do we.
That's the harder way, is we change the UDO to meet this part of town.
And that's how
I
this
just
part of
didn't
town,
know.
that's how this part of town was built up. It was built up on the 57 ordinance. And now when
That's
you
right.
take the leap up to the UDO, anybody that wants to make a change or Bud's Auto, let's say they knock that down.
That's
Now they're
right.
gonna- Now they're gonna have to go under the UDO, which they might not be able to do anything, whereas under the old ordinance, they probably could. So.
This, we're about to talk about the Hubbard property, that is only 1/3 acre. And if you would have to go by, because the UDO says, it contradicts itself. It has 2 landscaping. And it specifically says, just like the 57 does, that you have to go with the more restrictive part of the or landscaping. So when you do that, you can't, your project goes smaller.
If you want to have in the UDO that it is based, like Frank just mentioned, on what you have to do is based on the size, or if it's a certain size, you don't need to do something.
Right.
But you can't say, if you're a certain size downtown, you don't have to do something, but if you're a certain size at the corners, then you have to do it. That you can't.
So we could say like.
That was just the easy way.
No, I know.
We'll do it, that
It's
we
good.
can do it the
You could
hard
say
way.
like if you have less than an acre, then we could bring in the things from the 57 ordinance and say, if you're less than an acre, this
Yes,
is what you comply with. If you're more than an acre, then this is what you're.
that would be
And so
wonderful.
that's not, that's not really hard, in the sense that the people would be clear, but no matter where you're at, that's going to apply to you. So no one can say they're discriminated against based on the
Sure.
fact of where their
I
location
get that.
is.
So that might be a good way to kind of fix that.
And we knew when we adopted the UDO, that the UDO would need to be changed. It was based on Rochelle. It was, and Todd Wiegans, he thought that we would maybe be able to just, here's a smaller community, here, go use it. We made some changes, but we adopted a lot of what was in there, and over time, you find out, well, that really doesn't apply to our community. And I do think, no matter what group does it, I know it's painstaking, but I think it is important to go through the UDO, one, so that everybody can figure out exactly what it means. Because do I think everyone has read all 319 pages and or remembers them? No. And I think we just really have to have that concentrated effort to do that.
I don't want community development to be, but we talked, the zoning board, it's hard to get people to do these, to do volunteer. And I don't know, should it be their job? They're not even elected. I don't know.
I know they were prepared to start, doing it. I think a combination is ideal.
Sure, maybe that's the way to do it then, yeah.
Yeah, I just, I get concerned if like the non-elected officials, the appointed people, like in zoning, if they're tasked with doing a lot of these things, that they may decide that zoning is not what they wanted to do. You don't want to task liquor commission or zoning with too many things because they're really there to listen to the more important things and make a decision. But it does say in the 57 zoning, and I don't know about the UDO, but it does say that they are responsible, zoning is responsible for promulgating regulations and other rules of the zoning board of appeals. So they do have some of that authority and ability to do that, but I don't know that they should be going on and doing, let's say, solar ordinances and other things that might be a little outside, and that may be more board related, and community development might, be one of those that would take that on.
But that's why I think it's good to have the combination, because zoning is, usually the zoning board members are going to, if they are experienced, are going to know certain things that maybe the general board doesn't have that same level of experience, and so they can bring that to the table. That's all I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't know that, I wouldn't have read it.
We could ask that people on the zoning board, if anybody wants to volunteer from the zoning board to be on this committee.
Yeah.
We could ask who wants to be on it, and then they can say, yes, I do, or no, I don't, and then if you get one or two or three, great. If all of them want to do it, then great, then they can do it as a board, but yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah, the only thing that I would recommend, just because I remember it from going through the UDO the first time, when it was as far as part of Trowbridge Shells and tweaking it, is that there just has to be some way that you talk conceptually about the sections, not necessarily grammatically about each of the sections. You'll be here from now to Thursday.
Yes.
If we're talking every comma, every period, I mean, it's gotta be dealt with, but not necessarily by 7 people or 8 people who are looking at it. I think it's more of, what does this paragraph say? What do we understand it to mean? Okay, do we agree? All right, next paragraph. That's how I see it.
I agree.
And then the other thing, just while we're on the UDO, and Kelly, I don't know if you had a chance to check this, but I know we got that Word document from Seth. I don't know that it's any different. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but it came too quickly to me. I think it's the same thing we had gotten from Todd Weekends. Is
I
it?
don't know if I was included, but if you want to send it to me too, I can take a quick look at it as well.
It's not, and it's not for the content. It's the formatting issue.
Right.
Yeah, right, okay,
Yeah.
right, because it's content, we know that's
Yeah,
what it is.
I'll just start trying to make changes to
But
it
we'll
and see if I
see
can
if
make
you can
changes.
do it.
I did open some of them, and different articles are in different files. Is that how it was before?
Yes. The different articles are in different files, but then I was given one that was in Word, that it was all combined in one, and that's the document I work from.
Okay.
But again, it's the changes, and that's what we had experienced are difficult. So I don't know if there's I don't know that the document, that's one big document, is going to be any different format-wise from what they have broken down into their subheadings or whatever. So that's why I think we still have the same problem we had in the beginning.
I will look into that.
So is this something then, Frank, that we need the board to decide about having a combination like that, I would assume?
Right, so if you're talking about looking at the UDO and zoning ordinance, yes, you'd bring it up at the board and say, who should it go to, and then the board can decide, let's set up a special committee to look into that. If you're looking at talking about the zoning and planning commission and how that should be made up, yeah, you'd bring that to the board as well. And then you would say, this is what we talked about and want the board's opinion. And then the board can decide, no, we want to keep it the same, or yes, we want to make a change, and how to make the change. And they can say, okay, we like the idea of looking to change community development. You start looking into it a little further and give us some options or give us some ideas or whatever. I mean, but yes, bring it up to the board and then the board
Okay.
can decide.
Since we're on zoning, let's skip to H if we can. Recommendation from the zoning board to affirm the zoning at 209 West Main now and schedule a public hearing. Now, that's not just 209 West Main now. What's the other one, Kelly?
102 North
Benton, or North Benton.
102 North Benton. So it's the two Hubbard properties over here, I guess you call them. So, Mary?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want me to explain that?
Well, yeah, Bill, the zoning board recommended, with the exception of Bill Emmert, the head of zoning, that we affirm it with a public hearing. Now, I'm not sure that all the board members understood, because it was said in the meeting that 3 of them said they wanted to help these people because they've been waiting 3 months already to try to sell their property. What it is, Mike, is it's zoned general business on our zoning map, and they want to sell it that way. But in Wingis, it's listed as residential. I think the one is listed as vacant, how they do, because there's nothing on it. So Wingis does it, we're all in agreement, Wingis does not. The state statute, the village's ordinance trumps Wingis. So that's kind of neither here nor there. Mary's opinion was, and you go ahead, Mary.
Okay, I'm gonna back up one further, because I've talked to Bruce Hubbard since that meeting.
Oh.
And he's okay, with the village doing whatever it needs to do to get it cleared up. Okay. It gets a little confusing, so I'm gonna try to make it direct. Bruce Hubbard originally came to the village board. This had to do with 102 North Benton Street, the property on the corner that used to have a garage, that he wanted to get it rezoned to general business because he thought it was residential, because he had just looked at Wingis. We looked at it, our map said, no, it's general business. But then when we went to look, was there any sort of ordinance or anything back then? Couldn't find anything to justify. So I went to Fair Grant and said, will you do the zoning map? Can you look up for me the ordinance that you would have used? And Seth told me, oh, we don't have that. So we went back looking in minutes and whatnot, nobody could find anything. So somehow it got on our zoning map, and it's been that way for years. 102 North Benton Street, the one on the corner. That's gonna become important in a minute, okay? So I did a letter and I basically said, well, this is what the status is. When he wanted to basically have a public hearing for the rezoning, and zoning said, okay, let's not have it because we already have it as general business. But then we couldn't find the records. At that point, we didn't know that we couldn't find the records. So then, then Bruce Hubbard had indicated that he referenced in an email to Kelly that he was writing her about other things. This was in.
Is that the June email?
No, I'm jumping ahead, sorry. May is when he wrote the letter that asked for the zoning change to 102 North Benton, property on the corner, used to have a garage. There's a reason. So then he writes a letter to Kelly, fast forward to September. He writes a letter to Kelly that addresses a couple of things that are relevant here about the property, but says, as I mentioned in my letter in June of 2023, that I'm asking for the property to be declared at 209 West Main Street, my sister's property at 209 West Main Street, to be general business. So when we came to the zoning board meeting, Kelly had that in front of her. And so when it was said what property we were asking to affirm the zoning, they were talking about the property on the corner, and there was commentary made of, gosh, that sounds weird, having that address, 209 West Main, and faces Benton Street, but okay, that's what he said. So that's why the resolution or the memorandum said, recommend to affirm the zoning for 209 West Main Street. So then I'm looking at everything and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So I talked, and then Kelly got the items together, and I said, and we came to the conclusion, I bet he made a mistake in that letter. He really meant 102 North Benton Street of what he had said to us, because we had nothing from June. We only had this big thing. So I called him and talked to him about that, because when I started talking to him, he said to me, you know, we just found out that 209 West Main Street's got the same situation. And we're more interested in that one. That's kind of the one that's on the front burner right now. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, well, I thought you said it was 209 before. So when I called him after he gave me a spiel, I said, can you look at your letters? And he's like, absolutely, that's what happened. I told you the wrong property. I said, don't worry about it, because assuming they go ahead and have a public hearing or do whatever, we will include both of these properties. So all I'm telling you is that what the zoning said was to affirm the zoning at 209 West Main. That really wasn't, he hadn't even asked for that yet. He really meant the property at 102. And the 209 West Main is the one with the blue garage, or the blue.
And he wants both of them.
He wants
We're
both.
doing the same thing.
Correct.
So I'm still, again, that recommendation we don't have to take, as far as I understand. And the reason I'm saying that is I feel like the ordinance, in fact, you're gonna disagree, but I feel like the ordinance written, so the zoning map was created. I have the 57 ordinance in front of me, I believe it is. And this was created, and it has the generic, this is the generic ordinance for any property. So if you have a 2-family, you can do what it says right here. Now, if you go into the planned residential development, it says that you can have special use permit, which is the same thing as in general business. So what I'm saying is, Kelly's been going through some of the old, some of them. I think what they were doing is writing it when it had special use, just like was done for my property. If somebody says, I want to build a shop, which is covered under general business, why would we write anything different than what's in this book? Is my question.
Okay, but I guess, what does that have to do with the zoning as originally established?
Because I'm saying that the zoning map we should affirm the zoning map as Bill Emmert suggested and not have to have the public hearing on it, because it is this ordinance. That zoning map was created with this ordinance, and anything general business on this map that falls in, they can do whatever is listed under District 3 general business. If it falls outside of these parameters, then they get a special use and you write an ordinance.
But are you saying that in 57, when this ordinance was passed for the zoning ordinance, that it incorporated that map?
Yes.
As a part of it? So then if it incorporated the map as part of it.
It says that in here. Sorry.
There is a map. It says zoning map of the village of Winnebago, Illinois, and it shows District 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here, as part of the zoning ordinance of 1957. So if that shows it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 on here, that is what it was brought in as. So then we would have to follow this. And if this is what that map is, then that map is absolutely 100% correct. Unless we've had it changed since 1957. And if we have had it changed since 1957, then we have to find that ordinance. Yes.
Where in the, and is it, I didn't bring mine, where, is there a provision in the zoning ordinance? I know it, there's a
Under-
map in the middle, but does
under
it say we're
section-
adopting this map?
Section 3, district establishment and regulations I'm in right now. B, inclusion of zoning map. Said districts are bounded and defined as shown on the map entitled zoning map of the village of Winnebago, Illinois, which accompanies and which with all explanatory matter therein, define that for me, is hereby made a
Legends,
part
the
of.
legends that say, you know, this is
Okay.
general business, this is residential.
Is hereby made a part of this ordinance.
So what page is that?
Page 8.
Thank you.
I know it's it's just a little paragraph. being
Section
there.
3, district establishment regulations, yeah. Inclusion of zoning maps, so districts are bounded and defined as shown on the map and title.
And Kelly has the 1951 and it says the exact same verbiage.
1951, which was the one that was the temporary or the interim.
Right, but that wasn't incorporated in
No,
any
no.
ordinance.
So this one would be incorporated.
Right, okay.
So then that makes our life.
Bit easier.
We just go, we look at this map, and that tells it. And if this map is that map, we're fine. If this map is not that map up there is wrong. This map, that's part of the 57 ordinance, is correct unless we've had changes.
Well, yeah, it changes, because it doesn't mean that map's wrong, because that map has changed since 57.
But at least we would start with this, and if.
We could start with those two properties.
Exactly, we know what those two properties were back in 1957, shown right here. If there's no ordinance showing there's a change, then they are gonna be this category. So we don't even have to worry then about adopting this map. up
No,
here.
it's already.
It's already part of this ordinance. We already know what every parcel was coming into the village in 1957. We know what it was owned.
Yeah, and that map up there doesn't get quote unquote adopted, it's just supposed to be updated every year.
But, so this is the official map back in 57, and then what we do is we look at our ordinances that have changed things over time, and then we can update our map according to those. But right now, yes, this is the one you're gonna look at. So Jason, we don't have to worry about it doing any adoption of any ordinance of any kind, because we already know what the zoning is right here.
Okay,
So
where does it go for these people to be able to sell their
we
property
just have to
now?
look at it right now and say which zoning is it, and then we as a
Done.
village
Yeah.
send a letter. So until we adopt the zoning application that I've been trying to get adopted for 2 years, in that zoning application, it would say, I want a letter from the village of Winnebago to tell me my zoning of my property. Boom, they pay us $75. We send them a letter after we consult this and any ordinance, and we send them a letter saying, your property is currently zoned blank. And thank you for the prepayment of $75.
And that's a record for them to be able to
So
say.
that's a record for them, so they can go to the sale
Perfect.
and give it to buyer, seller, whomever. But that's one of the things that they can ask for in that zoning application.
So this does not need to go back to zoning, correct?
Correct.
We,
It's already been
you
determined.
can, somebody can send a letter.
Does that map from 1957 match the map that's up on the wall for those two properties?
Yes.
Kelly is saying yes, so
Yeah.
we are gonna.
I would say, yeah, if they match, then it makes perfect sense. If they happen to be different, then
Yeah.
we would probably have to research to see when they changed and why. But if you've got the map from 57 and they happen to coincide with that existing map, I think we're safe to say nothing has changed.
It's still district, or it's still general business on there.
Agreed.
General business.
And, yeah. But again, the one that's gonna control is the one that we have in the 57 ordinance, not the one on the wall.
No trouble with this. Yeah, streets. So, we can put that to bed?
Yes. Hey, isn't that nice?
That was easier.
Jason, are you working off a different agenda that was mailed out Monday?
Yeah, I don't have item H on mine.
Yeah, me
so I
neither.
think-
Okay.
Is it in the
It's on the website.
It's in the
I
municipal,
just went and printed it.
sorry,
for the
Community
meeting.
code.
muni
That's
code,
fine,
yeah.
that's fine. I mean, I've been on the road all week. I just wanted to make sure, I haven't gotten the habit yet of going to the Muni code, and I'll have to deal with that when I get back home, so, but okay,
That should be the only one extra on there. Sorry about that.
Okay. Nope, no problem. I just want to make sure if I had anything else that was gonna be different.
All right.
Right before I left, yeah.
Now to Frank, I think, because the hotel feasibility.
So that one, as you know, we had the hotel feasibility study sent to us and gives us a good update and gives us a more accurate depiction of the size of the hotel and, you know, the type of hotel that you come. What I would like to do is hopefully at the October 9th board meeting is just to get the board's approval to release this to basically anyone that contacts me that I feel should get a copy of it. We have a developer, there's a person, a corporation that's looking at buying some property in Winnebago. They may be interested in knowing what type of hotel would come there because it may help them in developing that 27 acres. We also have Julie Brown from Grand Stays Hotel, which is really, she's the one that was the impetus for getting this done. She is looking for a copy of this to then look over, see if it meets what their standards are, and then looking for investors to maybe come to the village. Also, I've got a client that her family does hotels, and they have one, I think, in South Beloit, and they're interested in looking at this as well. So I'd like to have the ability to release it to them. And I just wanted the board approval to do it. I just didn't want to do it on my own.
Yes, he asked me about it. I thought we'd take it through committee just to, and do it that way.
I know two of the trustees that are not on this committee had contacted me and said, yeah, release it. But I didn't want to do it on just those two. I wanted to make sure the board was okay. So, I mean, if community development's okay with it, I'll just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, do we need a vote on that, or we just, I'm okay with it?
Yeah.
Mike?
We made the investment to get in the hands of potential investors, so it would seem to be counterproductive to not get it in somebody's hand that we believe is a competent, qualified potential investor or developer.
And there are some other chains that Greg Haynes, the one that prepared this, he gave me their contact information. He talked to some and he said they were interested, so I need to get it to them. 3 different hotel chains. The one that I remember is Hyatt, but there are some other ones too. May not be the right market for them, but that's for them to decide.
Kelly, can you send that to Riley? I don't know that, it might have been before him. Not now, just it's the feasibility study.
The update, yeah. So, okay, and if you don't mind, I'll exit now.
Oh, yeah, we shouldn't have went through all that zoning stuff then.
Oh, I like the zoning stuff. Yeah. But,
All right, yes.
perfect.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda, the UTV's passed police committee, UTV ordinance. So something I suggested in there, Mike, and Riley, is to have the permit fee. Now this, at the time of me writing the agenda, I put ticketing fees in there. We decided not to do the ticketing, which hopefully there won't be that many of those. But permit fees go directly in a fund for fireworks. Since it's a community development, community development is funding the UTV. So the signage and everything, we're providing the money for. But I just thought it'd be something for anybody who was possibly against it or won't like it to know that the money is at least going to something good like that. I don't think anybody had an issue, but.
I have no objection to that. I guess the only playing devil's advocate a little bit, if for some reason we decided that we weren't going to have fireworks in some future years, are we being too, I mean, I fully support that those permit fees go into community development. And I also do support the fireworks as being the location as long as we're having them, but are we being overly restrictive? Or if for some reason in the future the fireworks were not to go on, then we would just have to make some other policy change to just redirect them to the general fund for community development?
Sally, you got any opinion on that?
We use the 4th of July fund exclusively for fireworks, so I guess it would be like any other donation. You know, there are other monies that we would have to redirect if Mike's scenario happened, so I would say there really is no reason that we couldn't do it, and then we would just have to deal with that in its full capacity at that time.
Yeah, and certainly one of, I guess if we had to be a little bit more generic, there's still nothing wrong with saying, those funds are going into the community development. They're currently intended to be used for fireworks. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, Jason, where you're going, because that will.
I just thought of it for.
No, it softens the blow for some objectors. So no, I'm in line with where you're at with it, and I guess what I would say, I'm good with that. And if for some reason we had to change policies in the future, we'll deal with it then.
Well, Chief White brought this up to me today because he was updating me on what happened at police committee, and I got a couple of questions. First, when you mentioned ticketing fees, but we're not ticketing, what's that supposed to mean?
I'm hoping that we don't have that many tickets.
Gotcha, okay.
That it would even matter.
There are certain rules they have to follow.
Oh, no.
We can't say we're not ticketing.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't
Okay.
mean that at all.
Okay.
He's just not directing the ticketing fees to the fireworks. He's only directing the permitting fees to the fireworks.
Got it. And
That's
so
right.
what I had suggested to Chief White, because what he had called me, he had said that the police committee was in favor of it the way that it was written, except they wanted clarification for the park district, that in essence, I had paved roads in there, and we know that the
Parking
bike path is not paved road, but people might see it, think it is, so that it would be restricted to the parking lot. And it's my understanding that's the way that it got approved by the police committee, so that I would make the change accordingly. What I told him, I said, I can put in the thing about that it either goes to community development or whatever in the ordinance. That won't be the way they passed it. Only difference would be that, they would need a second to their motion for the passage. I said the other thing that you can do is you can do it later by way of a resolution, because a resolution is considered a little more temporary, to say that we resolve that we're going to use it for whatever, and then in 3 years you decide you wanted to do something else, and you could have it in the ordinance and then amend the ordinance, or you could just pass a new resolution
I like
that
the
supersedes
resolution.
Yeah.
the other resolution.
That helps with what Mike.
That sounds more streamlined, yes.
And then a question for you, Mary, how will those tickets be handled? Will they be considered kind of like the administrative towing, where it's a local
Cheap.
ticket that we would have like a hearing for or anything like that? Or is it more like a fine?
Generally, those lifted, like you can.
I thought you said it would be a vehicle. Maybe that's
Yeah.
the same thing, but it's a vehicle violation.
And
So
so
it
that
goes
would go
through
to
the
traffic
county?
court.
And that's why we
Okay.
decided against it, because we don't get much from those tickets,
No, we
is what he
don't.
said. So it was like, why even mess with the ticketing part of it?
Well, and that part complicates where the money goes. That's already predetermined with those, so
Right,
we wouldn't
so we left
want to
that out.
interfere with how tickets are paid
That's
for
right.
some things and not other things, so.
Because the way we're able to do traffic court, and this is considered a vehicle
Mhm.
violation, but they have allowed us, because we're a small community, to handle our traffic and our ordinance violations. So if you got a barking dog or something of that nature and somebody, or a snow parking ordinance, they let that go through traffic court.
Oh.
They don't have to, but they do, because we don't have that many of them.
Got it.
And they let me do it on that one same day.
Okay, so do we need a vote for that? Or we just,
Well, you're recommending, I guess, then to the village board, because it's not coming from police, right? Aren't you then recommending
Yes.
to the village board to have the UTV permit fee, have a resolution at the UTV permit fee go into, the,
4th of July.
Fourth of July fund, thank you. I was gonna say community development, into the 4th of July fund, with, yeah, 4th of July fund period, I guess. We don't need any more.
I will make that motion.
Oh, you just said.
I'll second it. Can I get a roll call vote? Is there any discussion more on that? Roll call.
Whitney,
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ackerman. McKinnon. Mike McKinnon?
Yes. I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
Okay. Next, Chad had asked for new Christmas decorations. I don't know what that entails. So anybody have any ideas? Do we just-
Description.
Yeah.
Does he have a catalog or anything with those?
Let's see, email.
I don't think he sent, because it's been a lot of years since the.
I think those are from like the 1960s
Yeah,
or
they're
something.
really old.
I have no problem with it. I can't, I don't.
They specifically get attached to the street lighting, and there's something special about them that makes that work.
We probably need a lot more detail to.
Yeah, I guess probably the issue is my guess is the decorations are probably with his spending limit if it was own account, but since he's probably looking for that to come out of the community development account, he doesn't self-authorize. So I guess he should at least give us some sort of a dollar amount of what he's looking for to make sure that we're capable of reaching it from the budget. And then it probably comes out of Jason's authority if it's as far as his spending limit. If it's in the budget and it's within Jason's authority, I guess that's where I'd start with it.
Yeah, and I have no idea how much those kind of things cost. Are we, you
I
know,
don't even know how many we have
Right.
in place.
Hopefully not as much as playground equipment.
I was gonna say the same thing, but.
I can't find his email. I'll do more research with him on it.
But Jason, you do have,
Yeah, what is that?
I think it's 7,500
Because
per.
the signage for the UTVs, I forgot to say that I was gonna use that way as well. That's like $2,600. So, but I would not think Christmas decorations are gonna set us back. I don't know. We'll see.
You'd be surprised.
You would be surprised.
Wonder if they'll let me get them at the sales after Christmas.
Well, probably Jason, the thing to do is if you can just find out specifically what he's looking for, and if it's small potatoes, you can take care of it. If it's something that is a little bit bigger and you wanted further opinions, I mean, you can still get it on the agenda for the board meeting. It's just, instead of being a recommendation by committee, you just need a first and a second, and we can probably still deal with it there.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, hopefully it just entails the street light decorations. But, yeah, I don't have the description.
Okay.
I bet they'll be happy to throw those old ones away.
Yeah, sounds like it. So I was driving up Elida, and there was some children trying to cross to go to Dollar General. And they were playing Frogger, trying to get across. So it came to mind, I just wanted to discuss it. Have we ever talked about crosswalks? Because all the walks are on the other side, right?
Yeah.
On the west side, and then they have to cross over to get to Dollar General or any of that. Because there is no crosswalk anywhere there, is there? Even down further.
No.
Has that ever been discussed, Mike? And
I guess the thing about it, where were they coming from? And if they were gonna go to Dollar General, could they cross to get onto the east side of Elida and then cross, is there a crosswalk at the east side of Elida across
I don't
McNair?
think there is anywhere.
There are none.
There are none.
There's
Anywhere.
none.
No, you can't even go to Sullivan's or
No.
Family Dollar.
I never noticed it until I saw those kids trying to cross there. And
I guess I've been oblivious to it myself. I guess I've never noticed it either.
they were crossing right at Dollar General there.
It's hard enough to pull your car out there and not get killed.
Yeah, and I guess part of it is trying to understand, how it is they got down there. Did they go down, a light on the west side and then they wanted to cross? But I guess if you're saying there's no crossing at McNair either, I guess.
See, the sidewalk goes down the west side. There is no sidewalk that comes down on the east side on Dollar General.
Well, Dollar General put one in and we've got one, whatever they call that business, change names, but don't we have I know we don't have it going all the way to Sullivan's, but I thought we have sidewalks down to Dollar
There is
General.
by Dollar General, but not in front of Family Dollar.
Yeah.
Correct, right.
Is there one in front of Micron?
Yeah, you
Yes.
can't get, oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh,
That doesn't take
I
too
walk that almost every single night and it
Yeah.
dead ends right there on Cash Drive, basically, between the two Dollar.
Oh, so they
Yeah,
put a
so,
wall.
so the issue that put it this way, we've had an open gap there for a while, but with Family Dollar, or not Family Dollar, with General Dollar coming in, we were able to get them to put in the sidewalk from their property down there. So now we're okay, but now we've got the gap between, from Cash Drive down to Sullivan's is what's still open.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I would think that, if we have a crosswalk at McNair or from McNair crossing Elida Street, I don't really think we want much pedestrian traffic crossing down
Yeah,
the intersection.
I didn't realize there was a sidewalk over there. I didn't even look. I just saw the kid. I don't walk down
I
there,
thought when you
obviously.
said crosswalk, I thought you meant like maybe a little light or something.
Well, that's what I striped.
Well, and at some point, we may, have to evaluate that because, if somebody were down at the medical clinic or the drugstore or whatever, and they wanted to cross over to Sullivan's, at some point, we may have to deal with that. But I guess if the children were there because they came out of the residential area, the proper approach would be is to cross at McNair and then follow the sidewalk down along the east side. I mean, that would be the logical thing to do. Not that maybe the children there were, I mean, I certainly agree with you. That's not a safe situation coming across, Elida there.
It made me look that there is no stripings for walking, and obviously any kind of lights or I don't even know what it'd be.
Maybe like high-res stuff.
Well, and I was
It starts to
wondering
get expensive real fast.
if there's development on the land that the village now owns, kind of behind where the new storage units are gonna be. Will there be a road back there that meets up to Cash? Like, I think there's Thomas Drive and Cash, and I just didn't know if there were any developed plans that showed like a back road that could be more of a.
Well, if that ever gets developed, yes, because we will then have the requirement is those walkways or bike paths or whatever they're technically going to be called will have to be put in when that gets developed. So yes, from, as far as getting it over to, the assisted living center and up to, through that way, that would eventually be connected. Doesn't resolve the issue Jason's bringing up at this particular point, but that is, we've had some dialogue. I mean, even the whole, Frank's brought it up a couple times, the whole traffic flow down, through that whole area, because I mean, yes, I'm cognizant and concerned about any children crossing there, but I mean, it is really tricky with the automobile traffic when you get down on the north side of town. And, even if you're trying to go and you're going to go west on 20 and then you got cars coming in that want to go in Mobile that are heading south, and it's like a collision course on there trying to figure out the proper traffic flow.
But Jason, aren't you talking too about
trying to get from the east side, across the Lida to get to the west. side.
Yeah, either
Right?
way you went, there is
Yeah.
no strike.
There's no way to.
Yeah, because there are no stripes. And one thing they do in Rockford, not a lot of places, but a couple, and this isn't expensive, and we have jurisdiction of the road, so the village can do
Yes.
whatever it wants on the road, is down by the public safety building, down, and also by the Palace Hotel. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. It's now a senior center. But they've got striping, and they don't have lights, but they've got literally a sign that sits there, stop for pedestrians and crosswalk.
Yeah.
So I mean, that, at
That-
least,
I was thinking the same thing when you first started talking about this, but the only issue is how, like, there's a great load of area right there, but the only issue would be with the signs is just obstructing the turning lanes and just the high amount of traffic in there, but I am in complete agreement of at least putting a sign out there, but I just wouldn't want to obstruct traffic in any way.
Yeah, maybe we could put it not on the corner.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Now I have to see where those other
There's
signs
more,
are.
there's more and more communities that are doing exactly what Mary said, and most people are pretty respectful of that. Not too many of them are dealing with the width of that road that we have at Elida there, what I see.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're right. And now everybody did slow down. I mean, kids were fine, but the one went, two stayed, and so the other one started to come back. You know, kids.
No, I don't have an immediate answer, but that,
I thought I'd just put it on here. So
yeah,
we
no, it's, we've touched upon this issue in general on traffic flow overall, and that's one reason why, people want to try to make a left-hand turn at the south entrance, and it's designed to only go one way there or whatever. But I don't have a simple solution other than maybe keep it on the radar. So, somebody may have a more informed way of handling it.
Well, like you say, maybe we have to do something if the rest of that gets developed over there.
And maybe we can have a developer do whatever we want,
Yeah,
as part of a.
hotel
contract.
developer.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little button light that they can turn on to stop traffic.
Yeah, a button that flashes.
Yeah, I thought about that too, like that we have in front of the school entrance.
Yeah.
And, but I was just thinking on the more cost
Oh,
effective.
yeah, 'cause I'm sure that's pricey.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Is there any new business? None. Items for regular board meeting. Help me out here. I've got Memorial Park upgrade. Did the hotel feasibility need to go to the board, or we just said, go ahead and release it?
I think we didn't vote on it. The consensus was that we were supporting of it. I think Frank indicated he already had a couple other board members that were in support of it, so he just wanted to get a gut feel, so I think we're covered.
The UTV permit fee needs to go to the board.
Yeah, and then the only other thing would be is if you do find that the dollars and cents of whatever Chad was talking about may be more elevated, that may be something. On the Christmas decorations.
Christmas decorations, yeah.
what did you say your first one was, Jason?
Memorial Park
Memorial
upgrade.
Park upgrade, thank you.
And then a UTV permit fee for a fourth fund. And Christmas decorations, if I get when I get info from Chad. We'll see if that gets on there or not. For this meeting. Okay, no need for executive session. Next meeting date. Mike, I'm gonna try to just keep doing this the last Thursday. All the meetings are kind of meeting this last week of the month, so is that all right, or what do you want to do? I was trying.
You know what, that's fine. I mean, I do like the idea of trying to establish something consistent. And I guess when you say, the only thing I would do is clarify, do you want it the last Thursday or the fourth Thursday? Now, for next month, they happen to be exactly the same, but if it had been August, then you happen to have 5 Thursdays. So I guess just for clarity,
last Thursday. Julie does last Wednesday, so we'll just do it that way. Last
I don't know.
Thursday though.
I don't know, I'm gonna have to put them in manually. I don't know if I can get a last Thursday on my calendar here by recurring. That's right, I can do that. Yeah, I would go ahead and schedule that. I'm tentatively out of town, but it is business related, so I would be able to participate. I just don't know what flight schedule I'm gonna be at that point, but I would go with the 26th and I'll work around it just like I did tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mike. You're all right with last Thursday,
Yeah.
right?
So the next one's 10:26 then?
Yes.
That's-
What time?
5:30. Yes, 10:26. Okay, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Ackerman,
Yes.
McKinnon,
Yes.
Pitney.
Yes.
We
Okay,
are adjourned.
7:08.
7:08. Thank you.